So I'd like to call this Diversion Authority Board meeting in order. This is the February 22nd one. Heather, would you do roll call, please?
Ms. Williams?
Here.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Here.
Mr. Paulson? Mr. Campbell?
Here.
Mr. Wayland?
Here.
Dr. Mahoney? Mr. Pepcorn?
Here.
Mr. Grinberg?
Here.
Mrs. Sherling?
Here.
Mr. Peterson?
Here.
Mr. Steen?
Here.
Mr. Thorsted?
Here.
Mr. Olson?
Here.
Okay, thank you. Then we have the minutes from the previous minutes. This is item 2, if you've had a chance to take a look at it. And if so, if there's any changes, and then a motion if you're ready.
I move. Approve. Yeah, second.
Motion by Chuck, second by Kevin. Any items from anybody else? All those in favor of the agenda for our January 18th minutes to be approved signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against it, the same. And that agenda, those minutes are approved. Then we have the order of agenda. Does that seem okay with anybody?
I move to approve.
Second.
A motion by Dave, second by, who said it? Chad?
Yes.
All those in favor of the order of agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those against,
Aye.
same sign. And that order of agenda is also approved. Then the next item is management. Hey?
Yes. Good afternoon. Robert Cowan with PMC. Provide you with the update so far for the month of January for this reporting period. Recent technical accomplishments over the last month. Been meeting with the Minnesota DNR, continuing to focus on the alignment, so supporting those discussions. Also supporting the various working groups within the, coming out of that task force. And then also continue to support the flow easement evaluation study that's been going on with the NDSU team and as well as Crown appraisals. And then supported the DA testimony at the Water Topic Committee meeting that happened this week. And then continue to communicate with the P3 developers with update calls. As far as the March priority areas, to continue with supporting the new permit application that's ongoing, and also continue coordinate outreach efforts related to project changes resulting from any outcomes on the new project, and then supporting the development of federal WIFIA legislation, so that's a continuing topic that we support. Then also as an outcome from that, revising preliminary cost estimates to support any new project configurations. Those will be high-level type activities that we'll be supporting on the cost estimate.
Okay.
Questions?
Any questions for Robert?
All right, I'll continue then.
Okay.
Overall program status, so program to date, 420, almost 421 million has been expended to date. Those are the major categories based on the approved budget. Okay. For the 2018, for the approved cash budget, expenditures for the month of January was just over $4 million. Again, those same budgeted categories based on the approved budget in December. Okay. All right, no comments, I'll continue. As for construction update, really not much has changed from the last period. We're still working on the A1, A3 contractor response on their information request. As far as the in-town levee work, the majority of that work is completed. Nothing's really changed from last month. A2 is still addressing electrical performance issues, really trying to get the pumps into a situation where we can see how they're actually perform on a situation. F1N's in the contract closeout phase. F1S, everything's completed except for the generator work associated with the city hall. F2, this is the waiting to the spring for the grass grow in, so that'll be confirmed once that occurs. In-town levee, this is a new project that's been designed, ready to go out to bid. Currently on hold till we get consent from the courts to proceed with any construction in 2018. 42G is a landscaping efforts. Any remaining work there would be continued in the spring, and that is mostly planting a few benches, a couple of items such as that along the levee. Then in Oxbow, all the work's on hold. Any punch list items will be continued in the springtime. That would be any grass, any kind of issues that we may have from a cleanup and landscaping. 43 CD, this is the work with the levee, the pump station. All that work's been ceased as of December 31st. There's really been no movement on that project. And that is all, unless there's any specific questions.
Great. Thank you, Robert.
Okay.
And we'll move on to administrative legal. Mike, I believe, on the executive director search update.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and members of the Board of Authority. I'll be brief. At your table today is a revised position profile for the executive director position, and I want to acknowledge the work of the two mayors, Mary Sherling, Rick Steen, and Kevin Campbell, who have assisted in the development of the revised profile. We've taken some input and feedback from that group, and we've revised the educational requirements a bit more specific to administrative skills, less technical skills. You'll see in the narrative there in the proposed profile that we're really wanting the position to focus on shaping the administrative vision for the Diversion Authority and its staff operations. Another comment that was made that I think is good that we've included is really emphasizing public relations and project ambassadorship, while at the same time really growing the capacity of the board and implementing a long-range administrative and public relations model. I'd also make just a couple of other last comments about the recruiting material. We also heard, I think, pretty clearly that we should include some more interesting marketing photos, and I think we've accomplished that. These are contract photos that we did here in the city, and then we're going to try and include a couple of others as well from Moorhead. So this will be actually in a really interesting slideshow, PDF, that will be on the website for CPS and then emailed out to all of those candidates. So when they receive this, they're actually going to get a much more interesting look, I think, just a really nice pictorial of the community and the quality of life that we have to offer here. You also note, too, that we included a floor for the compensation, so starting at $150,000 plus. And I think that was a comment that the board members had made, too, that we should just try be a little bit more clear about where we're starting, not put a ceiling on it, but rather start at a floor of 150. So we've done that as well. Our timeline is to, with the board's consent to this today, get out on the street and then have a first review of applicants on April 6th. Of 2018, and we would again use and propose that subcommittee of the mayors and the county officials to help screen those candidates and those applications as they are received. The other piece that we'll be doing to complement Pam's work nationally and with her 5,000 plus contacts that she will make electronically is to also then work more diligently locally to try to get the word out. We'll use the conventional media channels here, the forum, and some other more intensive local outreach. That was another, I think, clear directive from the board at your last discussion on this item in December that we should try to do something a bit more deliberative in town as well as the region. So we'll be doing that, and again, happy to include any other feedback or comments the board has. But I think that Pam and her team did a really nice job getting us a refreshed look and feel to this material. I think it looks really good. I think it lays out well, and you'll note that we're definitely aiming now more for that MBA, MPA type candidate, less of an engineer, and somebody who will help us out with our administrative vision. So happy to answer any questions you might have and provide any additional feedback that you would have to Pam.
Chad?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Not a question, more a statement. This is a grand improvement, and I will end with that. Much better.
Great, thank you.
It does look really good. Yeah, well done. Any other comments, questions? Are we ready to give a nod to this so they can go ahead with it? Do you want a formal action?
Not necessary. It's really the board's prerogative. If you want to take a motion on it. If not, if we can just have some head nods that we're okay to advertise this and get out on the street, that's fine too. We'll give some status reports as to how we're doing too when we come back in the March board meeting. So,
Are we nodding?
looks great. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Public outreach, Roger.
Thank you. Public outreach met yesterday, and we talked about how we're going to go forward, letting people know about any alignment changes and the project when it finally comes forward for a permit. We talked about getting on agendas for the townships and the cities, and that'll probably happen, in about a month or so, probably end of March and April timeframe. And then also, I think the mayor was out to the Water Topics Committee and gave an update for us. Also on social media, it's been a little bit slow. Probably has a lot to do with we haven't presented a lot, or there hasn't been a lot going on with social media from our side. Just kind of waiting and sitting back to see where, how the project comes through the process that's going on now. Although they are looking for people to volunteer for their 3-minute little interview that some of you have already done. They're looking for more individuals to do that. Federal budget and the possibility, there's some developments that are being talked about in Washington about infrastructure support and rebuilding of that infrastructure, and how that might be a positive for our project, and how we might kind of fit into that funding scheme. We were not part of the president's budget, which is not a big disappointment, and certainly probably was not anticipated that we would. But there is some positive things that President Trump has said, that he wants to spend money on infrastructure and wants big support from the local. And this is exactly what our project is. It's really small support from the federal and huge local support. So I think we would probably fit in that really well. So that's all I have from the outreach. Rocky, was there anything else from you? Okay. And Tom?
Madam Chair, our task force has not met for a couple months now, and we're just waiting to see where we can and what we can be involved in.
Okay, thank you. And we may very well involve you.
Question?
Tim?
Roger, I was just curious, trying to get equal with Wilkin and Richland County, would it make sense to actually combine that meeting so they could both kind of be there? So nobody gets the first dibs on whatever, just in a sense of fairness, or do you want to divide it up?
We hadn't talked about that. We kind of looked at getting on their regular meetings and getting on the agenda. So Rocky standing up maybe has an idea.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. There's a number of jurisdictions we got to get out to, and one thing we heard in Bismarck, everyone's very curious about the changes, and every time we make news throwing out a date, like March 9th, people start to go, well, when am I going to know ahead of that? Am I going to know after that? And so getting on people's schedule, at least to give them some certainty that they will get the information. And I've been working pretty closely with Jason Benson and Jeff Epsch to really do the outreach on the township side, on the Cass County side, but we also have Holy Cross on the Minnesota side that we'll need to work with Clay County on as well once we get out the new maps. And so I think it probably will be a divided effort. And
Well, I would just ask, perhaps now we can make that effort, because a lot of times people say it comes, it's baked, it's already done. But wouldn't it be good just to reach out now and say we're intending on coming out? We don't have the alignment right now, so it's hard to go out. We publicly can't say anything as far as what that is. I think it'd have more ability to do that. And I'm assuming you're going to say, here's what we've been shown as possible plan by the DNR. What would you like us to do with it? And
Yeah, I think the idea is to get on the agendas soon, to make the contacts, to see if we can't get on. And then, I don't know how soon we can go out with information. Is it going to be after March 9th?
I'd say as soon as we know we're applying for a permit, it'd be nice to
Okay.
start to get out
Yeah.
there.
Hey, and that
This
would,
group as a whole needs to agree to whatever it is first. So
Right.
it'll need the last meeting for TAG, which is the 6th. It'll need the policy group to meet after that, which will probably be shortly after, and then it'll need this group to agree to it, and then we go.
right.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question, Madam Chair?
Yep.
So I also have a question for our Cass County Commissioners. So
like, let's say that we knew, let's say that tieback levy, that's the new alignment. So as soon as we know that, is that where we would start with you guys? Let's say if it was in Cass County and then go to the township, or how would the timing be from your perspective?
Unfair?
Chad?
I think what we do, so if the alignment was set, we'd start working with public relations to go out and meet, obviously the bigger cities to begin with, and then township officers and so forth, just as we've done in the past. We want to make sure everybody has a chance, I think, as quickly as possible and reasonably as possible to have commentary on what we're doing. Because our impact is X and their impact is X, I want to understand what their concerns may be, the widgets that we don't know about.
Dave?
So, Madam Chair, I guess that's, my main thing is, what's the order? And maybe, Rocky, you already have that, but to me, if you start out, and this is obviously Richland and Wilkin counties, are we going to start out with them and then go to the township? Is that, or how do you do that?
Well, I think it's probably a little different on who you ask. I know Commissioner Sherlings, who was on the phone, has said, we should probably start with Stanley and Pleasant Township, as that's where the major changes are happening. But obviously, Richland and Wilkin are very important as well. And so I think everybody sort of has a different priority depending on who you ask. And so I think what we found in the past, we've maybe learned some things from what we did well and didn't do well previously, is holding a big public meeting and expecting everybody to come to it and get their specific information answered is difficult. But if we can go to their already established meetings where their leadership is representative there, answer their questions about their area, and then wherever that area is, find the right elected officials or board members to be the, liaisons to that. That's much better than these big public meetings where we really don't get the questions answered that they want. And so some of it will be based on the timing of when they meet. Some townships don't meet all that regularly, and so we may have to call a special meeting of them, but most of them have regular meetings where we can show up at.
Thank you.
Tim?
I think the other thing the public has to understand is that we'll be applying for a permit, but they will also do a micrositing after that. So there's opportunity for some changes, and there is some opportunity for input. So if somebody says, well, you didn't take our input, yes, we'll take your input, but the same way, we're trying to get something that's permittable in Minnesota and get the DNR to concur with that. So I think the public has to understand we're kind of putting up a target of what we think is going to be the alignment and where it's going to go forward. And the micrositing might reveal some other things. And I know in the county we've had some areas where we say, whoop, whoop, we probably want to remember that this farmstead is here or something. So I'm hopeful, Rocky, that when we phrase what's going out there is, hey, we need to sit and talk to you because we do have opportunities for change.
I guess maybe one other topic on that.
Mayor, could I just interject?
Sure, Mary and then Roger.
Thank you. I think that's why it's so important to have the county engineers involved in this, because they know every nook and cranny and can really can really help us guide where exactly that alignment should go.
And I would guess they were, because as they do stuff, it's just sort of a general thing. I mean, when there's a corner that really isn't going to be a corner there, they haven't done soil samples or any of that kind of stuff yet. So the final engineering is not done at this point. It's just sort of more of a concept at this point. And so things will change to a certain degree, but it's the big picture look of it that we'll be agreeing to. Roger?
Yeah, are we done with this? I do have another item to bring up.
I just have one thing on that. It's been a number of years since we've had to do this sort of effort, and we have the benefit of better technology now, and so we plan to make use of a interactive web map and other sort of, technology-based things where people can maybe they can't make the meeting or don't want to go to the meeting and ask their specific question, but they can pull up their property on the website and do that. We're sort of all ready to do that when we had the CLOMAR approved last time, and so we'll be ready this time too. So it'll be hopefully a lot easier access and more up to date, and right when we release it, I guess.
Good.
I just wanted to give an update on a meeting that we had this morning, our kickoff with Crown Appraisals for our flowage easement study, Phase 1. And we had a very good meeting with Crown Appraisals, and we had a couple affected landowners that were there to listen to the process, and they were very helpful on providing some input. And I personally have to tell you that I am very, very comfortable with Crown Appraisals and the people they brought to the table. we should have an excellent handle on what these flows easements will, or the impact of these flowage easements on the land. They
How
really
soon-
impressed, I think, everybody in the room.
How soon will they have an idea? Did they give you a timeframe?
Phase 1 will end late this summer or early fall. And then after that, we will authorize Phase 2, which we have not authorized that yet. But starting out in Phase 1, yeah, very impressed with the people at the table. And the two landowners that were there knew these people, so they interacted with them, and they felt very comfortable. And I think there's a lot of trust, because these people know what they're talking about. And, yeah, it was an awesome experience, really, to listen to their proposal and how we're going to go forward. And I am positive that they'll be able to vet out every possible impact that this project has and how that'll impact property value.
Good. That's kind of the land management report, too. Is there anything else to add, Mary or Eric?
Sorry, Eric.
No, it's
No, I
good that you were there.
We did not meet this week. So that was quite a bit of land management. But Eric, maybe you have something to add.
Roger stole the only reason I was going to come up here. But I would just echo Roger's thoughts. I thought we had a great meeting this morning. I was probably quite optimistic before the meeting, and leaving the meeting, I feel even more optimistic, as Roger noted, that we're on the right path to not only solve this flowage easement question for ourselves, but also for the property owners who are impacted. Other things, just a few real minor items. As Mary noted, the Land Committee has not met for a few months now, in part because our land acquisition program is largely on hold. That being said, we have had a few properties that we had purchase agreements signed before the injunction, and we've honored those purchase agreements. And so there's been maybe 3 or 4 parcels that have closed in the last 3-4 months. And then there's a few other parcels that have some, sort of outside factors about why we're trying to proceed. A couple of them are rural residential properties that have an existing flood risk that the county has an interest in buying, and they've approached the diversion project about an opportunity to buy out now. And so we're proceeding with a few of those, and continuing to get a handful of phone calls from people that are asking questions about, when is this going to restart? What's the new project going to be? And so I think that ties in with some of the outreach discussion that we just had. So.
Okay. Any questions for Eric? Thank you. Finance, Tony.
Yes, part of the finance report would include what Robert Cowan shared earlier. No real changes or, material changes or issues from finance discussion yesterday. As Robert echoed, we are roughly $420 million in expenditures for the life of the project. A little over $69 million as our net cash position. As everyone is aware, 18 budget is downscaled, and nothing that's notable that's out of the ordinary. So I'd be happy to answer any questions on that front. Hearing none, then item 8B would need a motion to approve the vouchers for February 16th listed in your packet under 8B. The Cass County Joint Water Resource District, Onstead Twitchell, and Eric Johnson Associates.
Okay, is that a motion?
So
Tony?
moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any comments, questions? All those in favor signify by saying, I'm sorry, roll call vote, right?
Ms. Williams? Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Yes.
Mr. Paulson?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Wayland?
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mr. Grinberg?
Aye.
Mrs. Sherling?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Steen?
Yes.
Mr. Thorsted?
Yes.
Mr. Olson?
Yes.
And item 8C, we'll have Mr. Cowan kind of provide an overview. We'll need a motion on this as well for a change.
I have a motion for 8C.
Well, let's wait for, we'll do a description first.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So item 8C, starting first with the co-executive director's approval task order. These are just reporting out on the actions that co-execs have taken. The majority of these task orders are administrative in nature, either $0 extending period performance or part of closeouts where we're reducing the overall encumbrances down to cost to date. And those task orders will be closed out. So the first two, unless there's specific questions, I wasn't going to go over each one. And then I do have one construction change order that I'll go into some detail. So first couple are just reductions or administrative. The next grouping is task order 1, amendment 12. That is land management services. So that is an add just for anticipated work for 2018 and an extension of the period of performance and adjustment of some of the subtasks within that particular task order. The balance of the remaining on this page are administrative, just extending the period of performance to the end of 2018. The next page, again, administrative, either closeout or extending the period of performance, $0 increase, except for the one decrease for closeout. And then the following page, similarly, closeout, small adjustment for a task order on Terracon for closeout final report, then a closeout amendment for Old Tag, a reduction of $100,000. So those are all the co-execs just to go out.
Move to approve.
Okay. Then the last order is the, for the construction change order. Do you want me to go for those or, okay.
Sure.
All right. The construction change order, which will need a motion from the committee here. It's been reviewed by TAG and recommended by Finance to move forward. This is Myers Construction and Oxbow 43 CD contract, change order 3 for $38,822. The majority of this effort is associated with either site conditions or some design items that needed to be added once construction was started. And these are related to work that was done prior to the stoppage of work in the end of December of 2017. So if there's any questions.
Just point of order then, a motion. Heather, can we take all these in one motion? Is that
It's just the one.
the one?
Yeah.
It's just the one, the co-execs.
38,001.
You made the
Move to
motion.
approve again?
Motion by Tim, second by Tony. Any comments, questions? And will you do a roll call vote again, please?
Ms. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Hendrickson?
Yes.
Mr. Paulson?
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes.
Mr. Wayland?
Yes.
Dr. Mahoney?
Aye.
Mr. Pepcorn?
Aye.
Mr. Grinberg?
Aye.
Mrs. Sherling?
Yes.
Mr. Peterson?
Yes.
Mr. Steen?
Yes.
Mr. Thorsted?
Yes.
Mr. Olson?
Yes.
Okay, and that is approved. Any other business, anyone? You'll notice that our next meeting is March 22nd on here. Obviously, we'll probably have a meeting before then. And then we have an executive session. Dave,
All right.
would you like to make that motion?
I should have it memorized. I move that the Metro Flood Diversion Authority meet in executive session pursuant to NDCC 44-04-19.1 subsections 2 and 9 to consult with its attorneys regarding the ongoing litigation in the matters of the Richland-Wilkin JPA and the Minnesota DNR versus the United States Army Corps of Engineers and the Fargo-Moorhead Flood Diversion Authority as intervener. Civil file number 13-CV-02262-JRT-LIB and the contested case hearing before the Minnesota Office of Administrative Hearings regarding the Minnesota DNR permit for the Metro Flood Diversion Authority.
And a second?
Second.
Second by Chuck. Okay, all those in favor of going into executive session signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign, and we're going to go into executive session. We'll come back to adjourn, and there probably won't be any motions.
Thanks for coming, Tom.
We don't need to make that sort of a thing.
Second.
Motion to adjourn, second by Grant. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. We are now adjourned.